You see, a most curious thing begins to unfold when you start to awaken. And I am not speaking of the simple stirring from a night's slumber, the opening of eyelids to the morning light. No, this is another kind of dawn, a dawning from within the dream of yourself. It is the moment you glimpse behind the curtain of the great play that everyone is performing. The veil of illusion shimmers and falls away, and you see that what you took for solid ground is in truth a magnificent, flowing dance, consciousness playing a game of hide-and-seek with itself. And in this awakening, a curious secret comes to light. A truth emerges, one so fundamental, so utterly self-evident once it is seen, that you wonder how the entire world could have possibly missed it. But here lies the great cosmic joke. This truth must remain a quiet secret, not because it is perilous, but because the very act of declaring it aloud makes it impossible for others to come upon it naturally, like finding a hidden spring in the woods. For the truth is simply this: there is no effort required to be who you have always been. You are already the destination. The seeker is the one who is sought. The looker is the looked for. The wave is the whole ocean, pretending for a little while to be a single ripple, just to feel the bliss of dissolving back into the whole. Now, you might think, well, that is simple enough. Why not just tell everyone? And in that question, we touch the heart of the great paradox. Because if I simply state that you are already enlightened, that you have already arrived, that there is nowhere to go and nothing to attain, one of two things will invariably happen. Either you will dismiss the idea, for it runs contrary to all you have been told, about the long, arduous path of self-improvement and spiritual seeking. Or you will capture it with your intellect, and it will become just another polished stone in your collection of concepts. The moment you make this realization into a future destination, you have missed its ever-present reality. It is like trying to grasp your own shadow. The more you chase it, the more swiftly it eludes you. But if you just stop and be still, it is right there with you. It has always been the very ground upon which you stand. This is why the wise ones of old always spoke in such wonderfully confounding ways. They would point their finger at the moon, and then warn you not to mistake the finger for the moon itself. They would create beautiful, intricate practices, knowing that the final step is to let the practice go. They will build you a fine boat to cross the water, but to remind you that the raft is for crossing the river, not for carrying upon your head once you have reached the other shore. The Buddha spoke for 40 years, and in the end, he smiled and said he had not uttered a single word of truth. Lao Tzu knew that the Tao which can be named is not the eternal unnameable Tao. Jesus spoke in stories, in parables, for a direct description of the water would only make you thirsty. And you see, this wasn't some clever game of being obscure simply for the sake of it. They had realized a profound secret. Truth cannot be handed to you like a coin. It must blossom from within. But here is the truly delightful twist in the tale. You cannot discover it by seeking it, for who is the one doing the seeking? It is the little self, the ego, and that very ego is the veil of smoke that one must see through like a character, in a vivid dream, trying with all its might to awaken the dreamer. A truly magnificent impossibility. So then, what is it that happens in this awakening? You realize that all along, you have been playing a grand cosmic game of hide and seek. The universe, the divine ground, consciousness itself, use any word you wish for that which can never be caught in a net of words, has pretended to be just this little you, separate, bound by time, destined to fade, and has played the part so perfectly that it has come to believe its own magnificent story. The character in the play believes it is real. The wave forgets it is the ocean. And the awakening is the moment the ocean remembers itself in the wave and laughs, "Aha, there I am." And so the great quest comes to an end. not with the discovery of something new, but with the realization that you have always been that which you were seeking. The treasure was never at the journey's end. You were the treasure all along. But now we must tread very softly, ever so softly indeed. For when this dawns on you, when you truly glimpse it, a great fire of temptation arises to rush out and announce it to the world, to take your friends by the shoulders and shake them gently, saying, "But don't you see? You are already there. Put down the search. Let go of the effort. You are already that." And yet, this almost never works. In fact, it so often creates the very resistance you wish to dissolve. They might think you have taken leave of your senses, or worse, they will turn your living insight into a dead belief. They forge it into a new set of rules, a new cage. They take the spontaneous laughter of recognition and solidify it into dogma. They take the finger that is pointing to the moon, and they build a beautiful cathedral around the finger, forgetting entirely to look at the moon. This, you see, is the great pattern of human history. Consider the case of Jesus. The great sages did not come to build a church. The Buddha never intended to weave the fabric of Buddhism. They were simply gesturing, pointing a finger toward the moon of their own realization. But the followers, mistaking the finger for the moon, built a temple around the pointing itself. They preserved the written notes, but lost the silent music that played between them. And so, those who truly awaken learn a peculiar kind of silence. They do not necessarily become quiet hermits in mountain caves, though that is one expression. Rather, they learn to speak with words that are mirrors, not maps. They arrange the currents of life so that others may discover this for themselves, instead of being told. It is much like teaching a child to ride a bicycle. You can lecture for an eternity on the physics of balance, but until the very moment they feel the wobble and the sudden glide for themselves, the knowing is not there. And the great joke is, once they truly know how to ride, they cannot possibly explain how they do it. The knowing lives in the body, not in the idea. The one who has awakened learns to dance with others exactly where they are in the music. If someone is swept up in the grand spiritual search, you do not command them to stop seeking. Instead, you invite them to seek so completely, so absolutely, that the seeker themselves begins to dissolve in the seeking, and they fall into the realization that the treasure was always right here. If someone is caught in the game of self-improvement, you don't tell them it's a wonderful trap. You let them polish the mirror until they finally see that the one doing the polishing is the very flaw they were trying to erase. This is the sublime art of what the Buddhists call skillful means. It is the wisdom to meet the river where it flows, and to offer it just what it needs to take its next turn, knowing fully that all rivers are ultimately flowing into the same ocean. That the entire journey is a dance of staying perfectly still. That there is no destination, for there is nowhere that is not already here. And now, we find another veil, another reason this truth is a secret. Because the truth is a living thing, not a static fact. It isn't a formula that can be handed over like a key to a door. Each one of us must find it, as if for the first time in our own being. It must be utterly new in every moment, or it is just a ghost. It is, you see, like falling in love. One may speak to you of love, painting pictures with words of its sensations and signs, but these are merely echoes in a hall. Until you yourself enter the dance, you cannot truly hear the music. And when the current of love finally carries you, the way it feels is a secret known only to you. Though the ocean of love is vast and touches all shores, the truth we are exploring is of this very nature. It is, you see, universal. Indeed, every soul that awakens glimpses the same boundless reality. And yet, the window through which they see it, the particular dawn in which it breaks, the distinct flavor of this realization, all of this is utterly and beautifully their own. This personal essence cannot be bottled in doctrines or language. It can only be lived and breathed. Now, there is also a very curious, practical reason why this insight remains veiled, and it relates to the very fabric of society itself. For our society, you see, is a grand play, founded upon a silent agreement to believe in the script. We pretend that pieces of paper hold intrinsic worth. We consent to the idea that the masks we wear, our titles and roles, are our true faces. We join in the dream that time is a river flowing away from us and that death is a final door. But these rules of the game are not inherently wrong. They are, in fact, essential for the play to continue. One cannot engage in a game of chess without honoring the movement of the pieces. Nor can you join the dance of commerce if you do not accept the currency of the realm. So the issue is never the game itself. The predicament arises when the players forget they are playing. Upon awakening, you see the play for what it is, yet you also find you are still on the stage. The body still requires its nourishment. The form still seeks a roof against the rain. You must still interact with fellow actors who are lost in their roles, and so you learn to play the game, with the deep inner knowing that it is a game. You participate with full abandon, yet remain perfectly still at the center. You act as though it all matters tremendously, while holding the quiet truth that none of it matters in the way we are taught to believe. But imagine, for a moment, if the entire cast woke up at once. If every player on the board suddenly stopped taking the drama seriously, the whole structure would dissolve like a dream upon waking. And while there is a certain freedom in that, it would also unleash a torrent of confusion and profound distress. And so, the one who sees learns to be, as a wise man once said, in the world, but not of it. They perform their part with grace and conviction, all the while awake to the inner reality that they are playing a part. This is the deeper current of meaning, perhaps, when the Christ figure suggested, "Render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's." He wasn't suggesting a simple division, a division between the sacred and the everyday. He was hinting at the art of living in two worlds at once, to engage fully in the great play of society while resting in the silent awareness of what truly is. And this, you see, leads us to another current, a reason for this gentle silence after the awakening. And that reason is compassion. A true compassion, you see. Not the sticky, sentimental kind that wishes only for endless sunshine, but that profound empathy born from seeing your own face reflected in the eyes of another. When the illusion of the separate self dissolves like a mist, and you realize you are the wave and the ocean, you see that each life is following its own perfect current, even through waters of sorrow, even through the fog of confusion, even when their actions create ripples of discord. Now, this is not a call for passivity, for indifference. Quite the opposite. It simply means you cease trying to drag others onto your shore of understanding. You release the need for them to awaken, simply so that you might feel secure in your own newfound clarity. You allow them the grace of their own journey, knowing their present moment is the perfect soil for their own blossoming. You begin to see that suffering is not a cosmic error. Confusion is not a flaw in the design. They are simply steps in the grand dance. The universe, after all, is exploring all the ways it can be, including the curious sensation of forgetting what it is. And so, who are you to declare that another's dream of separation is a mistake? Perhaps one must be truly lost to appreciate being found. It may be that their unique melody requires them to touch the very depths of the ocean before rising to the surface. You do not know. You cannot possibly know. Each soul, each ripple of awareness, follows its own unmappable course. And so, the one who is awake becomes like the flowing water. Water never quarrels with the stones in its path. It simply yields, and in yielding, it overcomes. It seeks the humble ground and rests there in perfect peace. It mirrors the sky, the clouds, the trees, holding no opinion. It gives of itself to all life, making no distinction between the worthy and the unworthy. This is the art of living from that awakened space. But here is a delightful paradox, a little secret that might amuse you. Even when the great cosmic joke is understood, you are still marvelously human. You still have preferences. You still feel hunger and weariness. The waves of emotion still rise and fall within you. The fundamental difference, however, is this. You are no longer clinging to these passing waves, believing that you are the storm. You are the vast, silent sky, watching the clouds of thought and feeling drift by on the breeze. Consider how the sky is never stained by the weather that passes through it, and yet it holds all weather. This is why a person who has awakened can seem so wonderfully ordinary. They have not become perfect statues, immune to the storms of anger or the mists of sorrow. They have simply stopped grasping at the passing clouds as if they were solid ground. They have glimpsed through the beautiful, transparent illusion of a separate self. But the human character continues its dance. Only now, there is a vast silence surrounding the performance. And in this, there is a profound lightness, a quiet chuckle at the heart of the cosmic dance. And this very ordinariness is the most clever disguise for the truth. Because you see, if enlightenment turned you into a spectacle, floating on air and never knowing a gray day, the whole world would immediately take notice. They would place you on a pedestal, and in their awe, miss the entire point. But when the one who sees is just an ordinary soul who happens to be free, they can move through the world like a gentle current, unnoticed yet felt. They can offer a hand to another without becoming the center of the story. And let me share another secret with you about this hidden truth. It is not a destination at which you finally arrive. Oh, there can be flashes of lightning, sudden moments where the veil of the dream thins, but weaving that light into the fabric of daily life is a slow, gentle unfolding. It is like learning to see with new eyes. At first, the vision is clear for a moment, and then the old patterns of thought pull you back. Then, the moments of clarity lengthen until this new way of seeing becomes your nature, the quiet rhythm beneath the surface of things. But even then, there are dreams within dreams. You awaken from one story only to find yourself in another. You see through one layer of illusion only to discover a more subtle one beneath it. This is not discouraging once you understand the nature of the play. It is, in fact, quite wonderful. It means the great adventure has no end. There is always more ocean to discover, always a deeper reflection of yourself to meet, always more of the infinite to flow with. And here is a crucial point. You cannot use your awakening as an escape from your humanity. Some have a realization and try to use it as a bypass, as a way to sidestep the work of tending to their own inner garden, their commitments, and the intricate dance of their relationships. The mind, in its cleverness, might say, if all is a dream, why should I play my part? Yet this too is a posture of the separate self, another fortress built against the flow of life. True seeing does not discard the world. It embraces the whole dance, the human spectacle in its entirety. It holds life close, while knowing its dreamlike nature. You do not cease to be human. You become human for the very first time, not less. The colors of feeling become brighter, no longer muted by fear. For you have stopped building walls against the weather of your own heart. Your connections with others find their true ground, because the mask you thought you had to wear has simply fallen away, and so your life becomes a deeper participation, not a withdrawal, for the fear of losing has dissolved. How can you lose a wave you were never separate from? So, when it is said that the truth should be veiled, it does not mean you should speak falsely or turn away. It means you must become its living expression, not its herald. Let it be the rhythm of your breath, not the sermon on your lips. Simply be the truth, instead of describing it. Allow your stillness to speak far louder than your voice ever could. For this quality of presence is inimitable. One can feign knowledge. One can put on the robes of wisdom. One can even perform the gestures of compassion, but the silent music of presence cannot be faked. When a person has truly woken from the dream, there is a resonance about them that is felt, a fragrance that others sense, though they may have no name for it. Others find themselves drawn into this field of being. They sense a profound quietude, a space to simply be. They feel witnessed without judgment, a rare and welcome harbor. And within this silent acceptance, the tightly held knots of their own certainties begin to loosen, quite naturally. To look at the maps they have been following, and to wonder if perhaps, just perhaps, there is a vast, uncharted territory they have yet to explore. This is the nature of true communion. It is not a transaction of ideas, but a silent recognition of the deep water reflecting the deep water. The one who shows the way gives nothing at all. Instead, their presence is a mirror, reminding the other of the face they had before they were born. Consider two tuning forks. One is struck and begins to hum with a particular vibration, and soon the other, resting nearby, begins to sing the very same note through sympathetic resonance. And you see, sometimes the source of that vibration need not even be in the room. At times, the mere echo of them, a memory, a story told, a simple phrase, can be enough to awaken the same hum in a soul that is ready to listen. The Buddha has vanished into the mists of time for thousands of years, yet his silence still echoes, and people awaken. The vessel is not the point. What matters is the music, and whether one has the ear to hear it. When the listener's heart is open to receive. For you see, this readiness cannot be hurried. One cannot compel the dawn to break. All that can be done is to sow a seed of thought, and then to trust that it will awaken when the soil of the soul is fertile. At times, you simply let a seed fall and wander on, never to witness the great tree that grew from it in the quiet unfolding of time. And sometimes you cast 1,000 seeds upon the wind, and only silence answers. Yet still you cast them, not for the harvest you might gain, but because the scattering of seeds is simply in your nature, as it is the nature of a tree to offer its fruit. And now, let us turn to a question that may be dancing in your mind. Perhaps you are wondering, but my dear friend, you are here speaking words, crafting books, and weaving these very ideas into the air. Are you not then going against your own wisdom of silence? And that, of course, is a wonderful question. But you must understand, I am not here to hand you a truth, like a stone. I am only trying to open a door so that you may discover it for yourself. To gently suggest that it is perfectly all right to question the maps you've been given, that it is fine to simply look at the landscape of your own awareness, instead of relying on travelers' tales of what is real. And that it is a profound relief to be as you are, and not what you imagine you ought to be. So you see, I intentionally speak in winding paths and contradictions. I will say one thing, and then I will say its opposite. I build these houses of thought only to let them fall. And for what reason? To gently confound the calculating mind. To let you see that reality cannot be caught in a net of words. Just when you feel you've understood, the ground beneath you gives way. And after a while, if you continue to play this game, you cease all effort to grasp, and you begin just to listen. Listening not with the intellect, but with the whole current of your being. And in that silence, a different kind of knowing can arise. This is the subtle art of teaching by not teaching, of pointing by not pointing, of speaking through silence. A dance practiced by the wise for ages. They offer you a koan, a question that the mind cannot solve, not with the expectation of an answer, but to invite the rational mind to exhaust itself in the chase. And when this clever mind at last surrenders, when it admits it cannot know, a space opens up, and into that luminous emptiness, Reality may simply dawn. But you see, even to explain this is to say too much. To name the game is to spoil the fun of it. So, let all these words I've just spoken dissolve. Or better still, so you see the art is neither to grasp it nor to push it away. Simply allow it to be whatever it is. This brings to mind a wonderful old Zen tale about a seeker who approached a master, his mind full of questions. "I have heard," he said, "that you hold the key to awakening. I implore you, share this secret with me." The master simply replied, "Let us have some tea." And he began to pour the tea into the monk's cup. And he continued pouring, long after the cup was full, the warm stream overflowing, creating a puddle on the floor. The monk, agitated, cried out, "Master, stop! The cup is full. It can hold no more." "Precisely," the master said. "And like this cup, your mind is overflowing with its own ideas and speculations. How can I possibly show you anything new when there is no space to receive it? You must first empty your cup." But here, you see, is the subtle turn, the part of the story that often drifts away unheard. The point is not merely to have an empty cup, for an empty cup is, in its own way, just as rigid as one that is overflowing. A mind that prides itself on being empty is as much a prisoner as a mind cluttered with beliefs. What one is truly seeking is not a state of emptiness or fullness, but the freedom to flow between them. To be empty when the moment calls for it, and full when that is needed. To hold your ideas as you would hold water in your hands. To use them as the wonderful tools they are, rather than being a tool for them. This, you see, is the nature of awakening. It is freedom. Not a freedom from the dance of life, but a freedom in the dance. It is not an escape from thinking, but a liberation from the tyranny of your thoughts. Not a life without feeling, but the freedom to feel without being swept away. You can still participate in all the wonderful games, but with the quiet knowing that they are, after all, just games. You can wear any mask you choose, knowing that beneath it is not another face, but the vast open space of being. You can still weave the tale of who you are, while knowing it is just a story. And you are at once the one telling the tale itself, and the silent, empty page upon which it all appears. And here is the supreme and most marvelous jest. When you finally see there is nowhere to get to and nothing to attain, you are, for the first time, utterly free to go anywhere and do anything. When you realize you are already whole, just as you are free to become anything at all. When you see that in the grand scheme nothing truly matters, each and every moment becomes infinitely precious. This release from the seriousness of the game is what finally allows you to play it truly and joyfully for the very first time. But you see, here is the trap. If I simply tell you this, it becomes just another idea to put in your cup. You will nod and say, "Ah, of course, because nothing matters. Everything matters. I've got it." But the getting of it is the missing of it. How could it be otherwise? Understanding arises within the mind's embrace, yet our journey now ventures into the silent space that lies beyond it. It does not oppose the mind, but rather exists beyond it, embracing it, yet unbound by its confines. And so, what is the true nature of our conversation today? I am inviting you to gaze not at my words, but into the silence from which they arise. I am inviting you to feel into your own immediate awareness, rather than the stories you tell about it. I am inviting you to turn awareness upon itself, to feel the feeling, to see the seeing. And if you do this with a quiet heart, if you truly look without expectation, a profound clarity may arise. You may realize that the one who is supposedly looking simply isn't there. There is only the flowing act of looking. There is no experiencer standing apart from the experience. There is only the dance of experiencing itself. And in that quiet moment of seeing, the whole world is transformed. Not because anything in it has changed, but because you have ceased the effort of pretending it is other than it is. This is the secret that is so wonderfully kept, not locked away in some distant vault, but hidden in the open air, concealed in the most obvious of all places, which is precisely why it is so often missed. It is hidden in the texture of this moment, in the rhythm of this experience, in the gentle tide of this breath. It is hidden as you see, not hidden from you. And the reason it must be kept so quiet is that the very act of seeking it is what obscures it from view. The great spiritual search is the great veil. The striving for enlightenment is the cloud that hides the sun. The desire to awaken is the very fabric of the dream from which you are trying to wake. So, if you truly wish to find this, you must let go of the search, not out of resignation, but from the deep realization that there is nowhere else to look. You are already here, at the very center of the cosmic dance. You are already that. You were never anything but that. You cannot possibly become what you already fundamentally are. You can only let go of the performance of being something you are not. And when you cease pretending, when the mask is laid aside, when you allow yourself to be the space in which all things appear, beneath all the waves of conditioning and belief, then you will understand why this truth is so perfectly hidden, because it was never hidden at all. It is just that everyone is looking out at the horizon for something that is already here. They are searching the entire world for the treasure that is their own being. They are trying to become the one thing they have never, for a moment, stopped being. So, the one who awakens simply stops the performance. They cease pretending to be a ripple, and remember they are the ocean. They release the pretense of being a separate self, the game of knowing and the game of not knowing. They simply flow with the current of what is, which, of course, is what everything is. This boundless awareness, peering through every window of perception, the silent witness to every thought, the very life dancing in every form. And it is in this profound simplicity, this quiet ordinariness, in the utterly normal, that the grandest mystery and the most obvious truth reside. It is not hidden, yet remains unseen. Not a secret, yet unspoken. Not distant, for no journey can bring you closer to it. It is simply here, now, always, as you, as everything, as nothing, as the question itself, and as the answer, and the silence from which both arise. This is the melody that cannot be taught, but must be heard. It is a reflection that cannot be given, but must simply be recognized in the mirror of your own being. It is a dance that cannot be described, but must be lived. And so, those who have remembered the dance walk among you, their secret held in the open palm of the present moment, waiting for you to recall the forgotten memory, to truly see what your eyes have always beheld, and to be the self you have never, for a moment, ceased to be. So, wake up. But of course, do not try to wake up. For how can you, when you were never truly asleep? You are merely dreaming, and the dream is so vivid, so utterly convincing, that the dreamer has forgotten itself. So you could stop pretending, or you could continue the game. In the grand scheme, it makes no difference at all. The dreaming and the waking are but two movements in the same endless symphony.